Hi everyone, we are still in Lent, obviously. At the beginning of Lent, I gave myself a challenge to go as long as I could safely go fasting, and I ended up going 52 hours. And during the fast, I remember thinking to myself what it would be like to fast for 40 days. I don't think most people could do this safely without some kind of medical supervision. But I was thinking that imagine that if there was a reward for fasting for whatever reason, and the first day you got 1 cent, and every day that you could go fasting, the money would double 1 cent, 2 cent, 4 cents. And at the end of 40 days, by the way, get out your calculator because most people underestimate this. I was talking to a few people who really underestimated how much it was. $10 billion at the end of 40 days. And I remember musing what it would be like to be on such a reality TV show or such a challenge where you could win $10 billion. I wish they made this into a reality TV show. It might be a problem if it's tied into a religion, but just as a show where people could fast and get some medical supervision while they're at it, of course. Well, we have shows about losing weight, right? We used to have The Biggest Loser. I didn't really like the techniques that they use, but there are shows that revolve around lifestyles like that. But then I thought to myself, what I'm going for is worth a lot more than $10 billion. I had a little bit of an eating disorder. It was affecting my social life. It was affecting my professional life. It was making me miserable. My big wake up call was when I went on vacation, and I had to give up my favorite foods for just 2 weeks, and I became really miserable. I became a wreck around everybody who came into contact with me, and I really feel sorry for some of those people who had to deal with me not in my best mental state because I was craving foods back home. And it made me realize the stakes were a lot higher than 10 billion measly dollars. And by the way, I'm not making this a joke. It really was. I really wanted my life back a lot more than $10 billion. To be honest, I've had a lot of troubles in the past. When I was 18 years old, I got into a serious disagreement where I could have gotten into trouble. I didn't drive yet. I was living with my parents, and I had walked about 2 miles to my favorite grocery store. I used to walk a lot. And I was just about to get my favorite snack when I realized I forgot my wallet, and I became such a mess. And I knocked over a few shelves. We live in a small town, so everybody knows everybody. And I really embarrassed myself. And unfortunately, 13, 14 years later, now I can't really say I've improved very much. I've had times where I've jeopardized my job. I don't know if it was the cause of me losing a couple of my jobs. I've had times where I've jeopardized relationships. I've had times where I didn't really show it, but I was miserable, right? In the middle of a movie, in the middle of a activity that I love. Oh, I'm not really enjoying it to my full capacity because I'm thinking about when is this thing gonna end so I can go get uh, my favorite. Well, let me see if I have some of my favorite foods around to show you guys. Here's some shredded coconut, um, some baking chocolate. What else did I have? I'd just be daydreaming about food a lot. During the 2 days I was fasting, I was daydreaming about food too. But I remember telling myself, how do you feel about this? And I remember thinking myself of this craving, enjoy the company of this. I kind of personified the craving. Enjoy the company of Mr. Craving while he's still here because he's only going to be in town for 2 days. I remember literally thinking that to myself. And that was a good turning point because now I realized that things can go on without having to munch on food all day and all night. And I really do mean it when I say all day and all night. I used to eat in my sleep a lot. Whether it be just getting up to go to the bathroom and grabbing some chocolate while I'm at it, or sometimes bars of chocolate have disappeared while I've been sleeping, believe it or not. My favorite was one time when I was traveling. I was in Warsaw, Poland, and I had a dream, or what I thought was a dream, where I had gone next door to a convenience store and I had bought a 6 pack of non alcoholic beer and a bag of nuts. and I went back to my hotel room, and I thought it was a dream. And when I woke up, I realized that I did have empty beer bottles and the empty bag of nuts in the room. I thought, oh, this wasn't a dream at all. What was really funny was in the quote unquote dream, I had a good conversation with the girl working behind the counter, and I wanted to go look for her. So I went back to the store the following night, and I didn't see her. And I had to go home a few days later. I didn't get to see her for the rest of the trip. And then 2 years later, I went back to Warsaw and I made a beeline to that store to go look for. And I found her. And what was really funny was she remembered me because she remembered how I went to get non-alcoholic beer at 3 in the morning and how that was unusual. That I must have had a drinking problem in the past and I had switched to non-alcoholic beer. It just became a funny story between her and her coworkers and maybe her family. It just became a really funny story. Unfortunately, after spending a few minutes talking to her, I discovered she was married. She had talked about what her husband did, and when she said the word husband, my heart sank. And then I realized that it was okay because I had a good conversation with her and it was good practice. And I was only heartbroken for a couple seconds until I realized that I had a good time anyway. But it just goes to show how much of a background activity food was for me. You know, I was lucky I was able to get what I wanted that night. If I didn't, who knows what kind of a mess I could have been, you know, and especially in a foreign country. You don't want to get in trouble with the law when you're in a foreign country. So it made me realize that there's a lot more at stake than just $10 billion. And whatever you're doing, try to think about what's really at stake. And if it helps to visualize, use the analogy that I used of your money doubling every day you fast. Unfortunately, I didn't have the proper medical supervision, so I only went 2 days. But I hope to go longer at some point because I heard there are other benefits physically. But I think the big benefit I got was the psychological benefit of knowing that things can go on without having to munch on something in my mouth all day and all night. Thanks for watching.